Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MMA Unhinged. And as you can see, we are here. We are back for another episode of the podcast. I am back with Oscar Silva, my co-host. How's it going over there, Oscar?
It's going pretty good, man. This is the first episode of 2024, and we are here to preview UFC Vegas 84, Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. This is a rematch from October of last year. The fight ended in controversy. The doctor did not know what he was doing, so I say we get right into this preview.
Absolutely agree. Can't wait to preview the fight. The second time it goes down, as you mentioned there, Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. The first time, obviously, the doctor didn't know what he was doing. But now we'll talk about the second fight, and hopefully we'll see the right result without a doctor. But yeah, we'll talk about it. The main event, Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker, as you can see here. This weekend, the first event of UFC 2024. Fantastic main event. When Johnny Walker's in a main event, you never know what's going to happen. You can expect the worst or expect the best. It's Johnny Walker. It's as I mentioned, anything can happen. But firstly, Oscar, fantastic main event. Magomed Ankalaev is a huge favorite. And I got to be honest, that first fight, I would say there was a little bit of confidence from myself anyway, from Walker. I thought he did a little bit of a good job in that first round, but maybe I'm looking into it too much, and we never know what could happen in that second or third.
Yeah, for me, Magomed Ankalaev has been the best light heavyweight in the UFC for a couple of years now. I think that skill for skill, there's nobody that tops him. The fact that the guy is from Dagestan, he does have that wrestling to rely on, but he also is a world class striker. There's nobody, and I mean nobody, that has beaten this guy uh, straight up on the feet. He can always mix it up, and that's what he did in his title fight against Jan Blachowicz. I thought he won that fight, but the judges scored it a draw, and then after that he had to take on Johnny Walker, and it did not go the way he wanted it to. Johnny Walker attempted a flying knee. He got a takedown, started smashing him with ground and pound, and he lands a clearly illegal knee, and that was a blatant foul, sure. But Johnny Walker could have still fought. Johnny Walker wanted to fight. And Johnny Walker gave a correct answer. He said he was in the desert. And he was in the desert. He was in Abu Dhabi. So I don't know why the doctor decided that that answer was flawed enough for him to end the fight. That fight should not have ended, and now we're going to see this conflict resolved. And from what I saw, Michael Ankalaev can take down Johnny Walker if he wants to. And Johnny Walker, on the other hand, not only is his defensive wrestling not top tier, he also is not the most durable guy on the roster. We've seen so many highlight videos of the guy getting flatline KO'd. You look at the fight with Corey Anderson, the fight with Jamal Hill. These are fights where you just land clean on the guy and the guy topples over. And Magomed Ankalaev is one of these guys that usually doesn't knock guys out. But if guys are not defensively responsible, he can put their lights out. He did it to Ivan Kutalaba, Dalcha Lungiampola, uh, and also we've seen him just straight up destroy guys with ground and pound. That's why I thought he won the Blachowicz fight because he got a 10-8 in round five with how heavy that ground and pound was. Johnny Walker also will slow down if he's in a 5 round fight. Magomed Ankalaev is going to be more comfortable when they're grappling. So I say he's going to wear him down with grappling. And I say by round three, we're going to see Johnny Walker not be all there, and he's going to get knocked out with a big hook from Magomed Ankalaev. And Magomed Ankalaev has recognized that even though he's the best, he's got to do a little extra. And this time, I think he's going to take more risks in hoping of finding a finish, making a statement, and getting his title shot against Alex Pereira. Because right now, Jamal Hill, the former champion, he's in a little bit of legal trouble right now, and he's also coming back from an injury. So maybe the UFC will just give the title shot to the winner of this fight and make Jamal will wait a little bit.
I completely agree. Nonetheless, obviously, I mentioned about Walker, and I thought he had a little bit of success in the first fight. Doesn't mean I think he's going to win this fight. I think Magomed Ankalaev is definitely going to win this fight. He's too strong, as you mentioned about his wrestling, way too good, way too powerful when it gets to the grappling. Matt Walker is going to be in trouble from the off, and as you mentioned as well about his chin, it is not great. We've seen it multiple times be cracked. Even outside the UFC, there is a fight where he got knocked out 3 times, and I'm pretty sure everyone's seen it, but it's not a great look for Johnny Walker. His chin hasn't miraculously got better, so it's still the same as it was, and I definitely feel like we're going to see him get knocked out this weekend. Completely agree. Second fight of the night. Well, not the second fight of the night, but the co-main event of the night is Mateusz Nicolau versus Manel Kape. An absolute banger at 125 pounds. The Portuguese versus the Brazilian. It's going to be a fantastic fight. Manel Kape won going into this one on a 4-fight winning streak, beating Ode Osborne, beating Zagala Zumagulov, beating David Dovrak, sorry, and Felipe dos Santos. The one thing with Manel Kape, we haven't really seen him fight as regular, so I'm hoping we kind of get him seeing fight as regular. He's entertaining, he's a great watch, and he's got bombs in his hands, his kicks, his knees, whatever he wants to throw. Mateusz Nicolau last fought against Brendan Royval 8 months ago. He got KO or TKO'd in that one. This one, quite a tough one to pick. I'm choosing Manel Kape. As you can see here, the Tapology users, they are heavily confident on Manel Kape. I'm going with Manel Kape by KO or TKO.
I have to agree with you. So the first fight was early on in Manel Kape's UFC run. He was still getting his wits about him in the octagon. He was coming from Ryzen. In Ryzen, you can actually wear shoes. So it was just a completely different situation for Manel Kape, a new crop of talent, new rule set, and I think he's a much better fighter today. Uh, so early on, he was happy to just throw low volume out there in these 15-minute fights. And these fights would get away from him. This is a fight that got away from him. Even though I thought he did enough to win. In round three, that was the deciding round of the fight. It doesn't seem the fight to Nicolau because Nicolau got some takedowns. But Manel Kape was the guy doing damage on the feet. He was the guy landing the shots that had impact. And that should have been a win for Manel. And now he's going to get his revenge. If the first fight was so clear cut, the UFC wouldn't have booked this rematch. They know that Manel kind of got screwed over. So this is uh this is Manel's time to get his vengeance, and I think he's going to win this fight by second round knockout. Manel Kape is letting his hands go more and more in every fight, and we saw in his last fight he had a fight of the night with Felipe dos Santos. That fight was very exciting. Manel Kape uh, really let it all out there, and I think if you let it all out there against Nicolau, Nicolau is not that great at taking damage. When he fought Brandon Royval, he got flatlined with the knee in round one. I think Manel is capable of doing something similar.
Completely agree. It's going to be a fantastic co-main event. I always like to see the flyweight fights. One, they're entertaining, they're very technical, and they're absolutely, as I mentioned, they're entertaining to watch. It's going to be a fantastic watch. Manel Kape versus Mateusz Nicolau in the co-main event. Absolutely phenomenal. It's good to see Manel Kape back. When he transitioned over from Ryzen, I thought, man, this guy's a serious contender straight away. And I just wanted to see him fight more regularly. So hopefully we get that in 2024. Maybe 3-4 fights in that year would be good to see. Moving over to the lightweights, Jim Miller versus Gabriel Benitez. As you can see, Jim Miller, an absolute legend inside the UFC, inside MMA. Hopefully he fights here and then goes on to fight at UFC 300 after this. I know Dana White has made that promise. Let's see if he lives up to it. He's fought at UFC 100, fought at UFC 200. It only makes sense that he fights at UFC 300. But firstly, he's got to get Gabriel Benitez out the way. A man who was regarded as one of the hardest kickers they've ever felt by Javier Mendez, if I'm correct, is taking on a Jim Miller, a legend, 40 years old versus 35 years old. Jim Miller is coming off the back of a win against Jesse Butler. Obviously, he looked good in that one. He scored the uppercut victory. And before that, he lost to Alexander Hernandez. But, before that, he was on sort of a run, beat Donald Cerrone, beaten Taj Melta, and obviously beat Eric Gonzalez. Gabriel Benitez is coming off a win against Charlie Ontiveros, which was 1 year and 4 months ago. Hasn't really fought that regular. This one, quite, I wouldn't say close one. I would choose Jim Miller. Who are you going with this one, Oscar?
This one I have to go with Gabriel Benitez. Uh, Jim Miller, sure, he looked like a world beater against Donald Cerrone with one foot out the door. A bunch of debutants with probably no business in the UFC at this point. And when he takes on Alexander Hernandez, he definitely gets up pieced up there. But Gabriel Benitez is another guy that is a UFC that's been around a long time. As you said, kicks like a mule. I think for Jim Miller, he's not going to have the ability to knock him out like he did these other guys. So on the feet, it's a disadvantage for Jim Miller. And Jim Miller's not the best wrestler out there. Sure, he's got really good submission offense, but I'm not sure that he can implement it against Gabriel Benitez. There's also a lot of question marks with Benitez, obviously coming off this long layoff. So this is not with great confidence, but I do have to pick Benitez just because he's clearly the better kickboxer here. And I don't know how often Jim can get these takedowns. And we've seen it many times. Jim will slow down in round 3. So I do have to give the advantage to Gabriel Benitez overall in this fight.
Yeah, completely agree. I don't agree. I've got Jim Miller in this one. So this one could be the Told You So fight of the week. Yes, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I just said. Told You So fight of the week, Oscar. Next week, we're going to speak about this, and I'm going to say I told you so.
We'll see what happens, man. He's got Cain Velasquez in his corner, so he's got to have some real drive behind him.
Absolutely. Next one, an absolute banger at 135 pounds. Ricky Simon versus Mario Batista. Man, this is an absolute fantastic one at bantamweight. Probably my pick for fight of the night. Oscar, who have you got?
I really like this fight. I do think this is a great matchup for Ricky Simone, coming off that loss to Song Yadong, where Song Yadong stuffed every takedown and eventually knocked him out in round 5. But for Mario Batista, he took on um, who was Damon Blackshear in his last fight, and Damon Blackshear took that on a week's notice, and
Yep.
he did really good in that fight. He outstruck him. He took him down many times. I thought you could have given the fight to Blackshear. That's how close it was. Uh, and before that, he's fighting a lot of bottom of the barrel names. If you look at some of those guys, Guido Canetti, um, just these are fights that he should absolutely steamroll these guys in. And for the most part, that's what he did. He had his way with those guys. You can't do that to Ricky Simone. He's not going to have the grappling advantage with Ricky Simone. Simone is such a good wrestler, man. And on the feet, the power has to go on the Ricky Simone side as well. So I think Ricky Simone, wherever this fight goes, will be pretty comfortable. And I think he's going to win this fight decisively by unanimous decision. I think he wins every round in this fight.
Absolutely, Ricky Simon is going to be a fantastic fight, and I completely agree with you. I've also got Ricky Simon in this one as well. Mario Batista, as you can see, been on a fantastic run, as you mentioned. Beat Damon Blackshear, beat Guido Canetti, beat Benito Lopez after a long layoff. Benito Lopez beat Brian Kelleher, and obviously beat Jay Perrin. Really, no notable wins. Not really kind of stand out to me. Probably other than maybe Brian Kelleher. But that's probably about it. No notable wins that are, that I kind of look at and think, wow, that was a good win. I can give him credit for that one. Ricky Simon, as you can see, he beat Brian Keller. Obviously beat Rafael Sensao. Obviously beat Jack Shaw as well. And obviously lost to Yudong Song. So he's beat some good guys. Jack Shaw, obviously a top 15 opponent, I would say. Obviously a little bit biased, obviously he's being British, but I would say, he's up there as being on one of the top 15. Mario Batista's definitely got his work cut out for him. Ricky Simon, completely agree, is going to get the win this weekend. Next one,
Yeah.
Phil Hawes versus Bruno Ferreira. This one, Brazilian versus USA. It's good to see Phil Hawes back. He's an entertainer of fights, but can we trust him? He didn't have the best of 2023s, Oscar. What is on the table here?
All I know is that somebody's getting knocked out in this fight. Both guys are capable of flatlining guys at round one with punching power, and both guys have very recently been knocked out in round one. So it's really going to come down to who lands first. Because Phil Haas, sure, he's a phenomenal wrestler, but does he go out there and use it often? Not really. He tends to use it as a plan B when he starts getting hurt on the feet, like in the Nasruddin Imavov fight. So I think that I have to go with Bruno in this fight, just because Phil Haas is probably going to stand with him and put himself in trouble. Ikram Alaskarov knocked out Phil Haas real bad. Chris Curtis knocked out Phil Haas. Julian Marquez knocked him out. Uh, for Bruno, we saw him getting knocked out last year against his debutant, but that guy had so much experience. His name is not coming to me right now, but he had about 33 pro wins. So
Oh
that's
yeah,
what you got to give him a pass on. So I think I have to go with Phil Haas just because against Phil Haas because we've seen Phil Haas get knocked out so many times, and Kings don't get better. So I have to go with Bruno here. Bruno was able to put away a guy with a lot of hype behind him in Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. Yeah, that's the guy that knocked him out. Nul Sultan Riziboyev. This guy, if I'm not mistaken, is booked against Caio Borralho. I might be wrong, but
oh
he was booked with Caio, but that got canceled. But that lets you know what the UFC thinks of him because Caio's on a huge win streak. So this guy's a beast. So I have to give him a pass. But with Phil Haas, I really cannot trust him. He's let me down so many times. I have to take Bruno.
yeah. He's 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Is Phil Hawes. But if you look at his record, there are some wins that kind of really aged really well.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
None better than obviously Nasruddin Imavov. I mean, Imavov went on to go obviously fight in the top 10. That's a great win. Can he return to them heights? I'm not too sure.
yeah. Malkoon is an excellent win. Malkoon, that guy could have been in the top 10 easily eventually.
Completely agree. As you can see, though, you can't really trust Phil Hawes. You know, getting knocked out, obviously, Julian Marquez on the contender series, obviously getting submitted as well, getting knocked out 3 times in his last 5 fights. It's not a good look. This one's going to be an absolute test of who's got the better chin, and I feel like we're going to show. I feel like we're going to find out in that first round. I think someone's going to sleep. Absolutely. Moving over to the next one, we have got a heavyweight showdown between Andre Arlovski. Yes, that is Andre Arlovski. He's still fighting inside the UFC. Made his debut in 2000. No, 2000. I was not even born. I was born in 2002. This is absolutely ridiculous. I will scroll all the way down. Here we go. He made his UFC debut at UFC 28 and he got the armbar win. Wow. I was not even born yet. I was born in 2002, and that's when obviously he fought Ian Freeman, which is Ian Freeman was a legend in British mixed martial arts. So kudos to him. But anyway, back to the top. He's now fighting, still fighting, and he's fighting prospects nearly feels like every year. He takes on Waldo Cortes-Acosta, who has gone back off a win against Lucas Brzezinski. Arlovski, 2 losses back to back versus Marcos Rogelio de Lima and Dontel Maines. Is this a sign that maybe Andre Arlovski is slowing down a little bit now? He's 44 years old. Is that what we're seeing right now, Oscar? Do you feel like we're seeing the end of Andre Arlovski? And if not, could possibly be the end this weekend.
Yeah. So Arlovski, he's been long in the tooth for a while now, but he's been able to go to decision with most of these guys outside of your Rosenstrikes and your Ngannous. But recently, he's been fighting a little lower level guys, and he's been getting finished. And Dante Mays is not some one punch KO knockout artist. So when he goes down like that, it really discourages me. And I think this is going to be a confidence booster for Waldo Cortez Acosta. He's going to see that Arlovski, even though he's a legend, he goes down just like everybody else. And he's coming off that big KO win over Bresky, where he really just let his hands go. The guy notoriously was a baseball player, so the guy really knows how to swing that arm as hard as he can. And I think he's going to go for it. I think he's going to try to uh, show no respect to Arlovsky like you have to. And I think he's going to go for that knockout. I think he gets it. I'm going to say round two, he knocks out Andre Arlovsky.
Yeah, pretty sad to see. Well, it's good to see Andre Arlovsky still fighting, but it's sad to see he's 44 years old, almost 45. Um, Anyway, you don't want to see him get knocked out bad. And obviously, Wilder Acosta, he's got some power in them hands. You know, he's showcased it obviously throughout his career. Not inside the UFC yet, so he hasn't really, put his stamp on. Obviously, other than his last fight, he got them finished. But since then, or before then anyway, should I say, didn't really showcase his power. Hopefully, he goes on a little bit of a run now and showcases it. But anyway, Andre Arlovsky fighting Wilder Acosta, Cortes-Acosta. I've got Wilder as well, so unfortunate to see. You always want to see the old guys and the veterans win, but obviously you can't have your way all the time. Next one, at 170 pounds, Matthew Semmelsberger versus Preston Parson. Matthew Semmelsberger, if you cast your mind back, maybe not a few years ago, but he was knocking people out and he was doing it in spectacular fashion. As you can see, I say knocking people out in spectacular fashion. He knocked out Jason Witt, he knocked out Martin Sano. He was showcasing some power in them hands very, very early on. And then he ran into a couple guys and kind of got figured out by Alex Moreno, Jariah Rails, and obviously Uso Medic. He got knocked out in his last fight as well. Preston Parsons, 10-4 inside his mixed martial arts career, 1-2 inside the UFC. Has lost only, his two losses have come to Trevin Charles and Daniel Rodriguez. I would say not favorable matchups. Two good guys. Daniel Rodriguez, obviously fought in the top 15, out right now because he got tested positive. Trevin Charles got on a bit of a run himself right now, I believe. So I would say them losses are really not that bad. So I say a bit of a run now. He's not looking too great. Anyway, Preston Parsons versus Matthew Semmelsberger. Bit of a close one to call. I'm going to go with Matthew Semmelsberger. I'm looking at him to get back into the win column.
Yeah, for me, Samuelsberger is one of the hardest hitters in the whole division. Even when he loses fights, he still hurts his opponents really bad. When he fought Uros Medic was in serious trouble for a bit in that fight. Same thing in the Jeremiah Wells fight. Jeremiah Wells was hurt basically every round, but he gets these desperation takedowns and he keeps top position and he survives. Also, you look at the Alex Morono fight that he lost. He dropped Morono with a flying knee in round three. This guy is super powerful, and for Preston Parsons, he's he's not that defensively sound. He fought Evan Elder, who's a lightweight, and he got pieced up whenever it was on the feet. Also, the Daniel Rodriguez fight, his debut, he got finished in that fight in round one. I do think that Semmelsberger has the power to put away Preston Parsons. So I'll go with Semmelsberger here by knockout. But don't get me wrong, that we do know that Parsons has the ability to take down Semmelsberger and hold him down. But will that chain hold up? I don't think so.
Absolutely. Moving over to the next one. One of the best debuts of 2023 was was Marcus McGee. He came inside the UFC last year and he fought Journey Newson and he got the rear naked choke. I believe on short notice as well. So
Yeah.
and then obviously he fought again against JP Byers and got the right hook. He's exciting. He's entertaining to watch. Two finishes back to back, and he takes on Gaston Bolaños, who obviously has two wins back to back as well. Fought in Bellator and then came over to the UFC straight. He beat Aaron Phillips, and now he takes on Marcus McGee, who I love watching Marcus McGee fight. He's very entertaining. He throws bombs. He's got power in his hands, and I think he's going to get another knockout. If you look at Gaston Bolaños, his two losses is a split decision and a guillotine choke. It's going to be a tough one to call, but I'm going with McGee. I like him. I think he's exciting. I think he's got power in hands, and I think we're going to see another finish.
Yeah, I expect another finish as well. Marcus McGee is one of Mario Batista's training partners, also trains with the current champion, Sugar Sean O'Malley. So he's in a really good room, and he's shown that he has a really good offensive jiu-jitsu game. When if I'm sure he knew someone, I believe it was 3 days notice and choked him out. And against Jiffy Bays has no durability whatsoever at this point. So I don't take a lot from that, but he's comfortable wherever the fight goes, but he's at a huge disadvantage on the feet. Bolaños is actually a pretty seasoned kickboxer, so Bolaños is going to bring a lot to the table when it's on the feet. But the problem is, as you pointed out, fought in Bellator, he got tapped out pretty easily. He's not a high level jiu-jitsu guy by any means, and I think it should be pretty easy pickings for McGee on the ground. So I'll say round two, rear naked choke for Marcus McGee, just like in his debut.
Yeah, it could be fantastic. Always, like as I mentioned about Marcus McGee, he's entertaining. He comes to scrap, and he's got power in them hands. Definitely watch out for him. He's like a little pit bull. I don't. He's not Andre Arlovski pit bull, but he's like a little pit bull. He's good to watch. Next one, Fahid Basharat. This one on the prelims is ridiculous. Well, I think this is a high level fight. I think both guys are really good. Fahid Basharat versus Taylor Lapillus. Taylor Lapillus is coming off a fantastic win in my eyes anyway against Colin Loughran, a unanimous decision victory over at UFC Paris. Fahid Basharat, this guy, I can't have as much praise. This guy is a legit prospect. 11-0 from Afghanistan. Came from Afghanistan to the UK, trained in the UK, and now I believe he trains in America, Extreme Couture. Yes, he does. So now he's 2-0 inside the UFC. He beat Damon Blackshear and he beat Clinton Rodriguez. Him and his brother, I believe, are fantastic prospects, and I can't wait to see what they do in their UFC career. And I do believe he continues his run and he beats Taylor Lapillus this weekend.
I have to agree with you there. Taylor, when he fought Kellen was able to take him down twice. Didn't do a lot with it, but he did at least win a round in my eyes in that fight. So we're looking at a guy in Kellen Lockman who's not like a top tier wrestler. I do see Fareed more so as a top tier wrestler. He's got such a good jiu-jitsu game as well. Jake Shields has taken the Bashrat brothers under his wing, does a lot of jujitsu with those guys. They're always upping their game on the ground, and on feet they're pretty good. They're pretty good. But for me, Lapillus can definitely piece this guy up on the feet. Lapillus, this is his second UFC run, and his first UFC run, his striking was so good, and he's been at the MMA factory in Paris working with the coach of Cyril Gahn for a long time now. So his kickboxing is so good, but I just don't think it's gonna matter. Fareed will get these takedowns, and he's gonna win a very clear unanimous decision with his wrestling.
Yeah, that's going to be a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. Fahid Basharat, fantastic prospect, 11-0, fighting out of obviously Extreme Couture by way of Afghanistan / UK. The way whatever you want to look at versus Taliapis, who I think is a fantastic fighter as well. That one is a fantastic one on the prelims. Make sure you catch that one as well. Next one is Weston Wilson versus Gene Silva. USA versus Brazil. Weston Wilson actually in his last fight lost against Joe Anderson Brito by a KO/TKO ground and pound. That was 5 months ago. If you look at Gene Silva, he's making his UFC debut after being on Dana White Contender Series where he got a decision victory. Weston Wilson also made his UFC debut, the last time out. Anyway, he's had a lot of fights compared to Gene Silva. But if you look at Tapology, a lot of people back in Silva. Is that the correct thing to do, Oscar Silva?
Yeah, I always got to go with the Silvas, man. The Silvas are taking over as always. Gene Silva is a legit prospect. He's got knockout power. He's got really good jiu-jitsu, and we're talking about Weston Wilson, who's one of the boys' training partners, but he doesn't bring much to the table outside of his karate. So, and also the fact that the guy cannot really take a punch, it's going to be a big problem here. I think Gene Silva just does whatever he wants to this guy. I say late round one, he knocks him out. Weston Wilson to me is a guy that only got into the UFC because he was able to take a short notice fight. Outside of that, he just doesn't bring a UFC level skill set. That's about as simple as it is. That's why Silva is a 9-1 favorite because Wilson is, he's rated so poorly.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the debut of Gene Silva. Obviously, Oscar Silva will be cheering him, as you mentioned. He's got a root for them Silvers, so he's a huge favorite according to Tapology, -800. So there must be a lot of backing going in for him in this one. Next one, I know there's a lot of backing as well. Tom Nolan, Australian, making his UFC debut, I believe, as well. After the extended series, got a fantastic win against Bogdan Grad. This one, I've seen it all over the Australian MMA pages. They are high on Tom Nolan, and I think they have a case, don't they, Oscar?
I do think that it's justified to go with Tom Nolan in this fight. This guy is a tall glass of water. He's got a nice reach on him. And Nicholas Mota is a guy that he's just never impressed me. On the contender series, couldn't get the knockout. Um and then in the UFC, he gets knocked out all the time, including by Jim Miller. Jim Miller just collapsed this guy with his punch. And Jim Miller, I know he gets these finishes, but as I pointed out earlier, only does it against really low level guys with no durability. And for Mota, his last fight should count as a loss against Trey Upton. That fight, he never looked good. And then he got put in an arm triangle. Was about to tap in my eyes, but the ref stopped it before he taps because Mota wasn't moving, which I thought was ridiculous. Either way, Tom Nolan, he's got a lot of confidence. He is undefeated. I think he's going to let those hands go and knock out Nicholas Mota, set him back to the regional scene, I think.
Yeah, what I've seen from obviously the big train, Tom Nolan, obviously extended series, he looked good on extended series, but this is a big test. And I think, as you mentioned, Nicholas Mota never really been hard on him. I think he's got a good matchup to kind of make his UFC debut, potentially get a big knockout, and then obviously gain a lot of fans and gain a lot of traction inside the UFC. First one of the night is 125 pounds. Love the flyweights, I absolutely do. I've mentioned that, and already. Felipe Bunes, the Brazilian, he is 2 wins back to back on the LFA scene. Joshua Van is obviously been in the UFC, beat Zumagulov, and obviously in his last one beat Kevin Brojas. This guy 2-0 versus the inside the UFC versus Felipe, who's only yet to make his UFC debut, has fought an ACB. And obviously he's lost to some Jose Formiga, who Jose Formiga is a former UFC fighter, and he's also lost to someone in ACA. He's had a lot of fights compared to Joshua Van, but is he legit? Does Joshua Van beat him? I would probably have to say yes. Oscar, who have you got and why?
Man, I'm so high on Joshua Van. Joshua Van is very young in his career, but already this guy has many things down. He fought Shulka Shumagulov in his debut. Shumagulov has a lot of controversial split decision wins against notable names of this division. And this guy shut down Chagas, stuffed his takedowns, pieced him up on the feet. So he's got his cardio down. He's got takedown defense, and he's got insane volume. These are all great tools to have in his arsenal. And not only that, but he's got excellent body shots. He had one of the best striking performances on that UFC 295 card. He didn't get the finish, but he landed an incredible amount of body shots against Vallejos. Sure, he did get dropped in that fight, but he also showed the fact that he can come back from getting dropped. So he's got some pretty decent experience in his first year in the UFC already, and I do think we'll see this guy in the top 5 eventually. And this is going to be another step in that road to take him there. Sure, we've got this young Brazilian prospect coming up, skipping the contender series, but I just don't see many guys beating Joshua Van with the pace that he's capable of putting out there, and the fact that he can stuff any takedowns that come his way. I think I have to go with Joshua Van, unless we're talking about a top 10 guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree. It's going to be fantastic. Obviously, we talk about the card. This one's going to be Joshua Van. I think he's going to get the job done. 125 pounds. I love the flyweights. I mentioned it already, but I love the flyweights. They're entertaining. They're technical, and they are. They're exciting to watch. They never run out of gas. It's good. Anyway, the card. Top to bottom is looking good. Some fantastic prelims. As I mentioned, Fahid Basharat versus Ted Lapidus. Great one. Gene Silva. We've also got Tom Nolan. Great prospects. Marcus McGee. Never an exciting fight. Never not an exciting fight, sorry. So that one should be a good one. I don't want to jinx him though, but should be a good one. Matthew Semmelsberger hits like an absolute mule. And obviously we've got Andre Arlovski. Matt, you always like to watch Andre Arlovski fight, even if he's winning or losing, but it's good to see the veterans fight. Phil Hawes, Bruno Ferreira, that should be an absolute war. Should be an absolute barn burner. Should be a knockout as well in that one. Ricky Simone in the main card versus Mario Batista. Good one. Jim Miller, absolute legend. Matthias Nicolau versus Manel Cap in the co-main event. Going to be an absolute good fight, that one. As mentioned, the 125 pounds, their flyweights is going to be good. Main event as well. Magomed Ankalaev versus Johnny Walker. Great one to top the bill. A good card to really kick off 2024. We get this one out of the way, and then we've got UFC 297 in Canada. We've got a good start to the year, haven't we, Oscar?
We absolutely do. There's so much bad blood between Sean Strickland and Lucas Duplessis. Everybody has been counting the days until that fight is going to happen. And we also have another title fight on the card as well for the vacant bantamweight title. And we are going to be treated to an epic card, top to bottom. Also, Arnold Allen, Movstar Evil. I really like that fight. Chris Curtis, Mark Andre Barrios. There's a lot to love on that card. But before we go, I do have to reminisce on what was 2023. Just give me your fighter of the year and your knockout of the year.
We were speaking about this before we went on there. So fighter of the year, knockout of the year. Obviously, I'm going to pick Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich. Why? Because he's English, he's British. It was for the belt, interim heavyweight championship. Knocked him out. Everyone thought Pavlovich was maybe going to go in there and knock out Tom Aspinall. He was a scary man, all that sort of stuff. Tom Aspinall knocked him out. That was my heavyweight. That was my knockout of the year. And what was the other one? Fighter of the year. Damn.
I can give you mine first.
I mentioned Sean Strickland before we went on there, and I probably would have to go for him as well. I thought he had a fantastic 2023.
I have to go with him as well. He's the popular pick. He went 3-0, so he starts off the year on a 2-fight losing streak. Have lost to Pereira in Kenya. Then he kicks off the year, beats Nasruddin Imavov by decision in January. In July, takes on a really hyped prospect in who was it? What's the name?
Ikram.
No, it was not Ikram. It was
not
guy born in Dagestan, Germany.
Boost.
Yeah, Abis Magomedov knocks him out in round 2. Fights Adesanya on short notice. Outstanding performance. Wins the middleweight title as a humongous underdog. I have to give it to Sean Strickland. And also, he got another win at the end of the year by beating Duplessis by TKO. But we're going to see those guys go at it again on January 20th. But yeah, Sean Strickland was such a great story. And for knockout, I have to go with Justin Gaethje against Dustin Poirier in Salt Lake City. That head kick that nobody saw. Epic.
Yeah, not even Dustin Poirier saw it coming. Even though he looked like he blocked it, but it seemed like there was enough power, enough momentum behind that kick to knock out Dustin Poirier. It was great. Fantastic year for the UFC 2023. And I think we're going to have an even better 2024. We say this every year. How can that year get topped? But it always does. It's going to be a good one.
I would also like to comment on the booking of Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury on March 9th in Saudi Arabia. What do you make of that booking?
I feel like what we made, the comments of probably what we made last time against obviously Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. I do not see Francis Ngannou returning to MMA. I think there's too many big paydays for him out there in the boxing scene. This one, I feel like is going to be a little bit different. What we're going to see is a different fight, more of a. I feel like we're going to see more of a ruthless AJ, and we have been seeing that in the last few fights. Anthony Joshua has looked like to not return into his old self, but having that killer instinct, and I think that's what has caused that is the changes that he's made in his camp. He's now got Ben Davidson, fantastic coach. Used to coach Tyson Fury. Now he's on the Anthony Joshua, the coaching team. He's a fantastic coach. He's good. He got a lot out of AJ in his last fight against Otto Wallin, and obviously made Otto Wallin quit on the stool. And Otto Wallin took Tyson Fury to a really good fight. He went out there and he cut Tyson Fury. What Fury could not finish him. Anthony Joshua made him quit on the stool. I think it's going to be a different fight. I think we're going to realize how good Anthony Joshua is. Not obviously, I'd love to see Francis Ngannou do it, but I think AJ's my boy, man. He's from the UK. He's here. He's huge here. I I feel like we're going to see a good performance. It's 10 rounds. I think that's also favourable for Anthony Joshua because he gets tired as well.
Yeah. Uh, After what Francis Ngannou did to the heavyweight champion in his last fight, it's hard to doubt him. But yeah, there's anything can happen in that fight. Francis Ngannou really inspired me in terms of the potential for upsets in the combat sports world. Anything can happen. Um, Probably very excited for that. Also going down in Saudi Arabia, we're going to be having PFL versus Bellator fights, and one of them is going to be Jesus Pinedo versus Patricio Pitbull. What do you think about that?
That's going to be good. I'm looking forward to that. I've just seen, obviously, a post about 2 hours ago, as first reported by Arawani. Seems like PFL versus Bellator is going to go down in Saudi Arabia, as you mentioned there. One fight been able to confirm is Patricio Pitbull versus Jesus Pinedo. That's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to that. Um, I feel like everyone always has wanted to see the second best promotion versus first best promotion, and for years that has been Bellator. Everyone wanted to see how the Bellator champions would get on against the UFC champions, and I feel like we're not seeing that. We're seeing Bellator versus PFL. Obviously, PFL is now the second promotion. Um, it's going to be interesting. I'm liking what they are doing. I like the PFL. Um, I feel like they're going to be able to push you, and I feel this is what is good for the MMA community in the MMA space. We've got a second promotion that is legit and being able to push the UFC, and I feel like that's when we get the best out of the UFC is when they're being pushed by a second promotion that means business.
Yeah, there's so many wonderful opportunities with the Saudi Arabian officials investing in combat sports in general. I think they can do so much for combat sports in terms of getting eyes on some of these big fights in the future, especially for the co-leader PFL. So there's a lot there's a lot that can happen out there. And one of the things that will happen is that UFC fight night on March 2nd in Riyadh. We don't know what the main event is, but I expect a stacked card.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia's done huge things for combat sports, lately as well, especially boxing. I love what they're doing over there in boxing. They are finally making the fights that we've always wanted to see.
Yeah, yeah. Who would have known? All it took was just millions of dollars to be thrown at the top stars, and they'll sign those
Yeah,
contracts.
absolutely. Oil must be very, very expensive. Anyway, um, absolute pleasure, Oscar. It's good to run it with you once again. March of Silver MMA show. Make sure you catch us next week as well. Same time, 6 or 6:30 p.m. UK, and we'll be talking about UFC 297 in Canada. Sean Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. Gonna be a good one. Oscar, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll also